Okay, fine. We'll start now. We'll start with the prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Just want to mention the background of these things what we chanted, just for the benefit of others who might not have been there as a part of those sessions. Sahana Bhavatu is used as the prayer in many of the sessions. You will also see some of the yoga sessions, those who conduct yoga sessions, they use the Sahana Bhavatu. There are many Shanti mantras in different Vedas. The aptness of this comes from the fact that the content is very close to a classroom kind of an endeavor. So it says that we both are the person who is teaching as well as the set of people who are learning. So we are committing that yes, we both are undertaking an endeavor, we are doing something now, and may that be fruitful. So is what is mentioned there actually. So that's why it becomes like a very good Shanti mantra for classroom kind of a setup. So any session, wherever we start sessions together, alone it's different, but when it is together, then we are saying that we all want this session to be very fruitful, and whatever it's supposed to intend and deliver, that should be received by each of us. So that's what's the prayer, and prayer being karma, it will produce its result. So this is the reason every time we keep chanting this. So that's the background of specifically having Sahana Bhavatu as our prayer. This one. And when we say Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. So Sadashiva Samarambha means this entire knowledge, it has to come from Sadashiva himself. So when we say Sadashiva, we give a name, but then finally Brahman, you can call it actually. It's Nirguna. But then for Nirguna also you need Upasana. The moment you want a name, then Sadashiva becomes easier. Vishnu, Sadashiva, any name, that becomes easier. That's the reason Sadashiva Samarambham. This knowledge starts from there in terms of being transferred, and the immediate prominent connect, which is mentioned as Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya was the person who had revived Upanishads in terms of its awareness by people. So he is one of the main links actually. That's why we have Upanishads in the way they are available today, amidst the onslaught of all those things which were destroyed earlier. So Shankaracharya's work has been very useful in terms of reviving most of those things and giving it in the right way to us. So that's why Shankaracharya ji becomes important link. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam. Then we say Asmadacharya Paryantam. For example, like we have learned from Swami Dayananda Saraswati, Swami Paramarthananda, and of course I have learned it from my father himself actually. So whosoever is teaching us Asmadacharya Paryantam until this particular Guru, Vande Guru Paramparam. We say that we worship that Guru Parampara. So that's what the meaning of that particular verse. Okay. Having said that, I'll also chant the Shanti mantra of this particular Upanishad. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranas Chakshusrotra Matho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Ma Brahma Nirakarot Arina Karanamastvarira Karanam Me Astu Tadatmani Niriteya Upanishatsu Dharmas Temayi Santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. So thematically, I'll just recollect in few sentences as to what we have seen until now. So a person asked a question, ordained by whom this mind works, all the sense organs they work. Ordained by whom? I mean, there has to be an initiator, right? If something is working, it should have a beginning. And who is triggering this? This was the question of the person whosoever was asking this question. This was the question. Ordained by whom these things work? So, if we ask this question to someone who teaches anatomy, and you go and ask this gentleman saying, okay, how does this function of sight, the seeing work? They will say, okay, you have light which goes inside, you have lenses, pupil through which light enters, it forms an image inside, it's a real image, so virtual image, all this concepts will come in, and there is a retina which is a screen where the image falls, and nerves are there which can pick up that image, and then it will give the sensory perception to brain, and from there brain will interpret this is the object we are seeing, and if the object is known, it will consider that the object is known. If the object is not known, it will say it is a new object, I am yet to understand this object and experience this object. This is what brain is going to give back. So this is how it will be explained by someone who would be like a person explaining anatomy, biology, anatomy, whatever you call it. However, the person who was asking this question from a different perspective. He was just not wanting to know everything that is material that is responsible for this function of sight. So that person didn't want everything material to be explained to him, because everything material, even he can dissect some kind of a body in case it is available to him. He can also see what's happening there. He can also, by the way, infer, oh, something is like this, something is like a lens, something transparent, I'm sure light is going inside. He can also make some sense out of it. Even if he, if for example, he studies for a month or 1 year, he can definitely make out something or the other. He can make out by himself. But his question is not that. Everything that is visible, even he can see. He is asking about things that is invisible. Ordained by whom this entire thing works. So his question is basically, what is that is driving us to work? What is the principle behind all these things? If the signal is going somewhere, that there is a sensory perception, that is one thing, and once it goes into the brain, it starts interpreting. But as long as we talk about light, we talk about waves, we talk about vibrations, we talk about colors, it's all okay. Electrical signals, it is all okay. But we have an interpreter. So that is what is more important. We have an interpreter, and the interpreter he's just not saying there is light coming in. That interpreter is understanding the image as something, and the interpreter is also categorizing immediately if that object is safe enough for him to be in the proximity of that object, or that object is a dangerous object. So there are a lot of conclusions that is being made. It is just not a physical happening, and it is not just only a biological happening. When we say biological happening, there is something more to it actually. There is a person behind it, there are emotions behind it. That person is what is being addressed here. Ordained by whom? So that somewhere the person who is asking this question he is coming from that side of it actually. Ordained by whom all these things they are working actually. So that was the question, and then the answer, the way it was given was, okay, sense organs they work, it's fine. If you are asking how ears work, he's saying that the one which is the reason, the substratum of this function of ears, he is the ear of ears. So that's how he is saying. He is the ear of ears, based on whom this ear itself, the principle of this ear itself or hearing itself is dependent upon. So that's what he is saying. There is one main cause from where all these things they are because actually. So that's what is being said thematically, and thematically those answers have been given until the last verse. And after that we also saw this path breaking lines now, where we are going to the next level of one minute, where we are going to the next level of understanding. I'll just repeat the one which we saw last time, and then I'll go to the next one. So in chapter 2, mantra 1, we have these verses. Yadi manyase suvedeti dahramevapi nunam tvam vetha brahmano rupam yadasya tvam yadasya deveshu athanu mimamsamevate manye viditam. So this is what was said. So some of these things now become little cryptic, but then this can be explained very well. If you think I know Brahman very well, then you know only very little of Brahman's nature that is expressed in the human beings and in the gods. Therefore, Brahman is still to be inquired by you. And one of the disciples says, I consider it is known. So, even from the question of the disciple himself, 1 minute. Manishi, if you can just go on mute, please. We can hear some noise. Thanks. So, even from the question itself, we can understand that that gentleman was not expecting answers related to anatomy or anything gross. So that's not what he was expecting. So this line is saying that only, that if a person says that he knows that ultimate as an object, like for example geometry box, I mean the way you see geometry box, like that can you see Brahman? If a person says yes, I am seeing it like this, in that sense of a physical object being objectified by 5 senses, either by touch or sense of touch or seeing, smell, whatever it is. If that is the understanding, then it is said here that then that person knows very little about Brahman. So what is said here is, if a person says he knows Brahman in that fashion, as an object of these 5 senses, then he knows very little about Brahman, because Brahman is not that which can be brought as an object of 5 senses. So that's what is mentioned here. And if a person says that, it means that he's still in the journey, he's yet to discover the real nature of Brahman, which comes to oneself, that's a different thing. So he's yet to know that. If he's saying something like that, he's yet to know what Brahman is all about. And as this statement is made, I believe one of the student, he says that yes, I know. So we always have students, right? When in the class you teach a concept which is very subtle, so there'll be a different level of understanding of people, and one of them will straight away say that I already know this now. The moment it is said, he would already understand it very clearly, say yes, I know this now. So then others have to be still repeated some of those things, but then this person will already say that yes, I know it now. So it all depends at what point of time we crack the concept. So in this case, it looks like one of them understood Brahman within these lines, what is mentioned until now, and he cracked it, he understood what was coming in actually, and he straightaway said that yes, I considered it to be known, because he says that yes, I know it. And then probably he is explaining in the next line. That's what is the continuation now. So the next line, it goes this way. Naham manye suvedeti nona vedeti vedacha yonas tadveda nona vedeti vedacha. So these lines, now it will become a little tricky. For the next 2-3 verses, it will become a little tricky. But then luckily we have our gurus who can explain these lines very well by giving the right context. So if I just read the literal meaning of this, the immediate meaning of this which is given here, I do not consider. So who's saying this? That student is saying this now, because he said there, saying I consider Brahman to be known, and then he's continuing now. I do not consider I know Brahman well, nor do I not know. I know and I do not know as well. Among us, whoever understands that statement within quotes, it is not that I do not know, I know and I do not know as well. He, close quotes, he knows that Brahman. So it looks like some of the verses some of the lines many times which this WhatsApp famous Nityananda talks about actually. But these things really make sense. all that what is being said here is that in the previous verse also it was said, if a person says he knows Brahman, in what sense? As an object of one of these five senses, then he doesn't know. It's very clear. So that's the point, because Brahman is something which is not like a geometry box where you can just take it and then put it into your pocket and say, I have acquired Brahman. It will be there only for some time. It can be stolen by anyone who wants that particular geometry box. Then after that you will be bereft of Brahman. So then that will be the status of Brahman if you think geometry box to be Brahman. That cannot be. So we are talking about Nitya Vastu. So when we are talking about Brahman, we are talking about Nitya Vastu. Nitya Vastu is that which does not undergo change. And when we say it does not undergo change, there are two basic things which we take as comparison. One is space, other one is time. So from mind, this is how we can objectify as much as possible. Something which does not undergo change in terms of space and time is taken as Nitya Vastu by us. So we are trying to understand that Nitya Vastu. So that's where we would like to come out of our sense of being limited. And Aikya is going to say that Nitya Vastu, the one inquiring, whosoever is inquiring, he is the Nitya Vastu. That is how we are going to come out of the sense of being limited. So that's the phala finally. But in the process, what is being said, that Brahman as a word is being introduced to be the basis of everything. And that is being, dealt with right now. So this student says, not that I do not know, I do know, and I don't know as well. So that is what he is saying actually. So what does that mean? It is not that I do not know, I know and I do not know as well. He knows that. Okay. So when, again, I'll take the example of space. The only thing is space is inert. That's why the difference can have a folly, a limitation. For anything to exist, space is the first requirement for anything to exist. So all the while we may not keep introducing ourselves that I am space plus this body. So whenever we identify with our body and introduce also to someone, I am so and so, we don't tell them the basic thing that, that's because we don't even regard that actually. That's the reason. So we don't say that I am space plus this body. We never say this. I am this body. That's what we normally take ourselves to be. That is how we explain ourselves actually. The space part is just taken for granted actually. It is there, it is there. And then you can see, imagine, you can understand even from five senses perspective. We can't see Brahman, that's okay. But we can objectify this amazing space. You can see this space actually straight away and understand that this is one unit which is indivisible and it is just vast. So we can understand this infinity kind of a property, of this space. So space is still this actually. So it's an object of five senses basically. If you see, even at the level of space, which is the first bhuta of Panchamahabhutas, you can see that amazing kind of power it has. The power it has in terms of being everywhere and quite potent as well. Omnipotent and omnipresence, both these are there in space actually. Luckily this space is available for us to objectify, which is a very close approximation to Brahman. That's a nice word, approximation. Very close approximation to Brahman, because space is one entity which is partless, which is not made of parts, which cannot be divided. Even if we want to divide it, mentally, mathematically we divide. And the division can keep going on. You have a scale where you start with feet and then come to inches, come to centimeters, come to millimeters, then you have some more. So whatever distance you may use to scale space, that distance can be divided by further 100 to give another name. And you can yourself imagine where it can end. Is there an end to it? So many times Swamiji says, in terms of eternity, the word eternity has no meaning actually. Eternity means what? Eternity can only mean that, Swamiji says, it is the vexation of someone's patience or whatever it is, that vexation can be called eternity. Now, if we have a discussion today that yes, let's conclude what is the lowest unit that we can arrive at. If I go around the table and if I start with 1 feet, then next person will say, no, it can be divided into inches, 12 inches. Then someone will say, no, it can also be divided into 30 centimeters. Then someone will say, no, it can also be said at 300 millimeters. Then someone else will say, okay, then millimeters, what all it can be done. Then you go to microns, and that level you have to go. Even after the first round, now I will have a chance to say, even if I don't know any of the units what the other person has said, if the name is not given, I'll say, okay, let me take the unit what you mentioned. Supposing I take in this round, okay, the way I see the screen, I see Bhavya to be the last one if I go by circle from myself to her. So if Bhavya finishes saying, this is the unit we can come down to, I will name it, okay, let's name that unit as X. Now I am proposing X divided by 1000. Gaya kaam se? Now then after me, I see Ambika ji in my screen at least as the next one. So she can say, yeah, Basket, whatever you said, let us take it as Y and I will divide it by 1 lakh. So just imagine, if we go this way, is there going to be an end? There won't be any end to this actually. So space, we can try to understand it by using mathematical measures which mind can objectify. That too only in a spectrum where mind can objectify. Beyond a point, we just leave it to mathematics and we hope that it works. Yes, mathematics definitely works, because when we experiment this within the level when we know it works, 2 plus 2 is 4. Yes, definitely. You keep 4 laddus, 2 here, and 4 persons are there. 4 persons are able to get 1 each. Yeah, 2 plus 2 is 4, correct. So you can do any kind of a research in the level at which mind can understand. Now the moment it goes to, on the left side, it goes to atomic level, there itself we lose sight of what's going to happen. Then we relax. Abhi aankh se to kuch nahi dikhna, imagine bhi zyada kuch nahi karna. Sit back, relax, look at the board, x to the power of minus 1000, 1 by whatever 10 to the power of x. So you have to just dwell in those thoughts. Now I can't objectify any longer. Leave it. Let it be there actually. Let me adapt what is coming there. That's it. 1 divided by 10 to the power of whatever. So at a micro level, you have to leave like this actually. Now when I go to this side of galaxy, so this galaxy, that galaxy, and then distance between many more galaxies, you will be really astonished to look at the planets, the galaxies. So we think Earth is quite big enough, and within this, when we buy a plot of 4,000 square feet, we feel we are one of those big shots. For example, 1 unit in Ambi Valley, we are on top of the world actually. So that's how we see it actually. Now a physicist comes, he says that, boss, when you see sun, Earth is hardly any speck actually. So he comes and makes one comparison actually. So relatively you feel, acha, in that speck, I have a smaller speck actually, which is Ambi Valley. In that I am living, I am much more smaller than that. So this is the relativity we have actually. And then someone says, okay, you have galaxy, which is, several times of Milky Way. I mean, this one. So, and when they say several times, it is not twice, thrice, 3 times, 4 times. It's so many times that itself becomes unimaginable. So this is where we are in terms of our sensory limitation. So that's why these words, perception and inference, they become very meaningful, because beyond a point, perception stops, and somewhere inference takes over, and beyond that, imagination takes over. This is what is happening actually. So that's where we have to understand the limitation of sense organs. So with all this idea, if a person says, oh, by the way, I saw Brahman the other day, I know Brahman, it is just 1 centimeter size. So that is not Brahman. Here it is saying that if a person sees Brahman as of 1 micron or 1 trillion, what you can say, square meters or cubic meters volume, if someone defines like this, that person does not understand what Brahman is. This is what is said. So this person who seems to have very clear idea of Brahman from whatever is said until now, or maybe from his earlier some of those understandings he might have had as well, he's making a clear statement saying, I know. Yes, I consider that to be known. Not in the sense of the wrong understanding, he is making it clear, saying, yes, I'm not saying that I know Brahman like a marble. So I'm saying that I know, at the same time, I do not know. I know and I do not know as well. So, what does it mean when I say I know? Going back to the example what I said, whenever we say body, automatically space is there. Similarly, whenever I say I am, it's an ego. I am as a person. That I is already there. That I is there. You are always there actually. Just like there were space is an integral part, or you can say that's the root cause actually of for any material thing to exist. Consciousness or Brahman is the root cause for anything to exist, including space. You can now imagine if space itself is like that, which has these two properties, omnipresence and omnipotence. Now you can imagine if Brahman is that from where space comes, it should have something extra than that. And what is that? That is omniscience. That's where the concept of consciousness comes in. That awareness, consciousness comes in there only. So, this Panchamahabhuta and the first Bhuta, which is such a vast thing, actually indivisible, everywhere, this is basically a product of Brahman only. So, Brahman is the cause of everything. Now, when I say that, okay, as since I am here, automatically it goes without saying that Brahman is here already. That's how it is. Anything exists. Only any gross thing exists as a material thing only in the presence of space, and including space, anything exists for that matter only in the presence of Brahman. So, in that way, when I understand it, automatically I know Brahman that way, not through the five senses, through understanding, through vichara. That's what the statement means. I know Brahman. And again, I do not know Brahman is what? Yes, I am not saying that Brahman is like a chocolate. No, it is not like that actually. I didn't say that it is chocolate and I enjoy Brahman every day. No. He is not object of five senses. I am not saying that I know him in that sense. That's the reason I know Brahman. I do not know Brahman as well. So this is what the meaning is actually. Someone raised hand? I'm not sure. I could. Manishi, did you raise your hand?
Yes, please.
Yeah, please.
So, I just wanted to understand a little bit more on omniscience. Now, it is something which is like it is going beyond the thought process. So, can you throw some more light, or maybe one or two more examples? What like beyond space and time? So how do I
understand? That chart what I had shown as a part of Viveki Chudamani, that would be very helpful to depict this. So basically, in Atma Vidya, we finally try to understand the difference between the properties of space and difference between properties of Brahman. So Brahman, if you ask me, it is Nirguna, but mind has to be told certain properties. That is when mind will understand. So we have to understand the folly or whatever, the limitations that is there in the, what you can say, process of explaining Brahman. So the very process of explaining Brahman means what? You have to fit it into words. Words will have their own limitation, but words when arranged in the right way can also bring us out of the wrong understanding. So that is the attempt being made by Shastra. That is why it is called Shabda Pramana. Now, when we examine the movement of any object from place X to place Y. For example, let's imagine, let's fix a place where moon is starting, where it orbits Earth. So let us fix that as point 1. So normally from point 1 to come back to point 1 minus some micron or even almost 1 to start again, it takes a day. So time wise, that is what time is, basically an outcome of this distance and someone who's measuring the distance. That's what time is actually. See, time is related to a person who's waiting for something. If we have asked for tea and tea is yet to arrive, you sense time. Okay. If you have not asked for tea, you are just doing some time pass, you don't have sense of time actually. So time is only when a person is counting it. Otherwise, time has no relevance actually. So when you count, you need something gross to measure it. When it is the case of tea, you know that when tea has come, time is, that time is finished what you wanted actually. So from the time you ordered tea until the time it comes in, normally this hotel, these guys say 20 minutes is the order time. So 20 minutes is very clear actually. Beyond that, you will know, you will not wait actually. So let us fix one point where moon starts moving. As far as space is concerned, space is just intact in which moon is moving. So if you fix that point 1 and then point 24 when it's exactly finishing, and that becomes 1 for the next journey. Okay, so 24 hours. So I'm just giving a number because you can understand. So space at point 1, space at point 2, space at point 3, space at point 4, point 5, point 6. From there up to 24 hours. Now, as far as space is concerned, it is not divided at all in that way what we are saying, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 24. Not at all. It is just one space. In that, moon is occupying point 1 at one point in time, point 2 at another point in time. It is moving actually. So if something is intact and something is moving, which one is superior? I would like someone to say this here.
Intact.
The one which is intact is superior. Fine. So to some extent we can call that is Nitya Vastu. To that extent, for this example alone. Because the other one is already moving, the one is quite stable, intact. So that is supposed to be the better one, which obtains longer, for example. So in this, moon is moving, but space is intact. Now, let's take a Jiva, a person who is moving from, similarly, just replace moon by Jiva. One person. Any of us, we can take ourselves as the example. Narada Muni. Normally, he is shown to be, moving here and there, creating good problems for good solutions. So let's imagine Narada Muni is at point 1 and he is kind of going to orbit Earth. Point 1, you don't have only this physical features of Narada Muni, you also have an ego or one interpreter there. Moon cannot say that I felt cold in this point and another place I didn't feel, I felt warm. It cannot say because it is not a Chaitanya Vastu. It is Jada. However, if you replace it by either oneself or Narada Muni, for example, it is not Jada. Now it's not going to be that, okay, space is, we will not just say that Narada Muni ji, he is just orbiting and space is going through him. Space is intact and he is not intact. The examination cannot stop here because we have two ingredients here. You have set of physical things which is there, which is, you can say physics, chemistry, biology, all the things which is there in Narada Muni as form. But there is an owner of this body who is continuously interpreting things inside. Either as a Karta or Bhokta, he is there inside. Forget alone he is a Jnani or not. Just as a Karta, Bhokta is there inside actually. Someone who knows everything what is happening around him. Not through the senses of not through only 5 senses. Even in Sushupti, when 5 senses are resolved, he knows. Now we have to bring back all this what we learnt in Viveka Chudamani. This is one gentleman who, even in deep sleep, when every organ is resolved, he still knows who he is. He still knows who other things are. Very clearly he knows this actually. So that person we are talking about, that is equated to consciousness basically. Now here you have consciousness plus space. Actually this is Chidakasha. Consciousness and space is Chidakasha. So this you have there. Now we have to understand, earlier we thought that space is intact and that's the boss. Now, along with this quality of being everywhere and quite potent, this consciousness is also conscious. It is a conscious being. So that is what is called science. That science word is basically because it is conscious. Everything else other than that is all jada there actually. That entire physics, chemistry, biology of that body is completely jada. The one who's interpreting there, and when he is not confused with prana or any of those bodies, pure consciousness, the chit, is Brahman. So, when we had space, which seemed to be like a boss actually, with omnipotence and omnipresence, amazing thing, indivisible, infinite kind of. Now, when you encounter one more thing there, which is having one more greater quality than those two as well. The third one as well it has got. Now you understand which one is the boss. Now, in the wake of this knowledge of consciousness, of one being conscious, the moment you understand you are that consciousness, automatically space has no space. So, for example, where I am, Ashish is not. And where I am, Sonia is not, or Bhavya is not, from a physical perspective. Now, when you go to a subtle level, where from five senses we can understand that, okay, this space is something which is amazing, and I have to understand that. Now, as I want to understand that, I stumble upon myself. Do not stumble, I just understand it because of vichara, because Shastra is telling me, a spoon feeding it is giving me, saying, boss, you are that conscious being which is objectifying space. Are you bigger than that, or is space bigger than you? Shastra is asking this question. So, in a way it is saying, boss, space is the first Panchamahabhuta. After that you have some more. Space, air, water, fire, earth, everything. Right? Now, when you include space and include everything else in space as, Mahabhuta, and you say that is Jada, and Shastra is saying you are Chetana Vastu, you are the Chit. Do you understand? At least do you interpret you are a person who thinks whatever. In fact, the thinking part is also happening because it is borrowing the Chit's capacity. That's why it is happening actually. So that's where the Pancha Kosha is an amazing thing to understand. Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. The subtle ones are very, very difficult, and they play and they project as though they are very powerful after having borrowed the Chetana and Chetanatva from Chit, which is oneself actually. Now Shastra is saying, boss, this Jada, which is this space, has two qualities. This power of of being omnipotent and omnipresence. But you are the Chetana, which has got those two, as well as one more thing, which is the Chetanatva, consciousness. You have got that now. So now, are you superior to this, or is space superior to you? This is what Shastra is asking actually. And now, if I put it other way, this is Jada. Do you feel you are Jada? And if we say we still feel we are Jada, then we have to inquire more. That's all. Shastra is simply asking, boss, you are that consciousness which is much more subtler than space as well actually, and you are everywhere. Whether you are traveling to Singapore or here or there, you are everywhere actually. You are everywhere. So then now you can understand, are you bigger than space in terms of the properties, for example? Yes, Maniji, you were saying something?
Yes, I am saying that. So, if you see out of the five Panch or Panch Mahabhuta, what we speak about, everything else except space is limiting.
Correct.
Okay. And I was also relating it to that when we look at the space also, so the vastness of space is that today, if you see, I am seeing even the light is limiting.
Because light comes after, no? Space, Akashat Vayu, then air, Vayor Agnihi, light is Agni. So that comes third actually.
So that is, so it is because from the space perspective, we also know from the theory of expansion that today also space is something, or what we see or whatever we know from science, that is also very, very a limiting factor when we are talking about time, or when we are talking about so when you were giving the example of measurement, so what we know today as a space, that is also a very, very limiting factor, because you today also the universe is expanding. There is
I know.
The light has not gone. There is something with light is also limiting, because it is not that maybe hundreds of billions of light years also, but there is still a space where light has never been to.
Correct.
And second, so can we say ultimately, can we say space is darkness?
Space is
darkness?
No.
And
darkness is a relative word with respect to light. That's all. Space is not darkness. Space is, if you say, when you use the word darkness, it is just with respect to light. Space is not at all affected by whether that space is lit up or not lit up. Space remains space whether it is lit up or not lit up. So one thing what I want to say is, scientists, when they want to understand what space is, depends on which scientist is working on what. If a person is working on understanding more and more objects, to understand until what extent, until which distance we have the distant gross object, howsoever small it may be. If that is the idea, he's looking at gross objects. We look for material things only, no? So a person is not trying to understand, saying, I want to understand how far nothingness is. If you want to understand how far nothingness is, it is just at that place where you are actually. It need not go anywhere, because let us take an example, but then that example still will have a limitation. If we want to find if with a pot of rice when cooked, if we want to obviously they are cooked at the same time. It's cooked at the same time. Okay? You don't keep on adding raw rice at different point in time. You just put water and then lit it. Now in this situation, you want to test whether rice is cooked. Now, how do we test this? Do we just go eat everything and say, abhi ho gaya, it is cooked? Then how will we serve to others actually? Simple thing we do is we take one grain, mash it or eat it and see whether it is cooked. That is approximative to everything else. So here the only limitation it faces is that this is divisible. Now apply this to space. As a scientist, if I want to understand space, I don't have to look for the yonder space. I have to take just space which is here right now, only examine that, because it is such an amazing thing that what is here is quite homogeneous. At least from my inference I can understand this. What is here is just the same homogeneous space, even if I imagine yonder. It cannot be divided. When something cannot be divided, let me analyze that thing right where I am instead of imagining where it is elsewhere. So if we have to examine space, we have to examine space right where we are. We don't need to examine anywhere else. This is Vedanta's way of looking at things. Now, where I am, if I take that space, I can never give that unit as to what kind of micro unit it is. Because I am there, that's the only thing which I know. I am there. What size of me, I don't need to worry about it. When we actually, when you go into meditation or whatever it is, when you're in Shushupti, you don't worry about your size at all. You don't care about your size. You are just awareness, that's it. So when we take the example of space, at that point where we are in, first thing what happens is, you are objectifying space. First thing, you are objectifying space. The return is not possible. The reverse is not possible. For example, if I am sitting along with you, I can see you, you can see me. Okay, both ways we are objectifying each other. But you close your eyes, Just take yourself to be where you are without any physical location. Just where you are. वो पता क्यों करना कि कितना बड़ा है? You are just that what you are. There, assuming you are occupying space, which is not the case. Assuming you are just taking that space where you are, analyzing that space. The moment you start analyzing this space, first thing you understand is you have objectified the space. My space, ठीक है? Whatever be its size. Now, can space see me? Can you even communicate with space saying, space, hello space, that space where I am right now, I can see you. Can you see me? If you talk like this, if I say like this, someone puts video of me like this, it will become like Nityananda video actually. So, can we ask it? Can you even explain? Can you even expect it to answer? No way. That is what Jada is all about actually. That is what Jada is all about. So, in this analysis where I take that one grain of rice, that space where I am for examination, first thing I realize is that I objectify space. So, something which I know is not Brahman. So, what I know is space. Space is not Brahman. And I know space very clearly. There is no doubt about whether I know space or not. I know space very clearly actually. That is very clear. So, if I know something very clearly, that is not Brahman. But before this, I thought that space is everything. It can hold galaxies. It is infinite. It is indivisible. But kahan gaya wo? Hai hi nahi space. It is not even able to answer. Though it is omnipotent and omnipresent. Now, who is the superhero? The one who is analyzing. The only thing he has to come out of is the sense of being limited. Even when he wanted to analyze, he's saying, yes, I am here. But still he will be worried about his size. Am I size of an atom or am I size of whatever cubic meter that can be, put for me? So many liters. For example, 100 liters. Is that my size? That problem will be there. Because Panchakosha, Manaha, Buddhihi, these two, they basically think they are the ones, right? And they have their own folly. They are in between actually. That is where the entanglement kind of is happening actually. So the idea of that Manas and Buddhi, since they are product of this Panchabhuta only, that has to be also given up along with space. So the way Manishji you said that, every other element, the rest of the four elements, the way you said they are subservient to space, because they can still be, kind of imagine in terms of Anityatva. They are subservient to space. Now, similarly, when the inquirer is inquiring, he should come out of the sense of being mind and buddhi. That he has to come out of. Coming out of is what? In terms of vichara. So, just like those four Mahabhutas being subservient to space, here also the one who is behaving like he is the Chit, he is doing everything, calling the shots, Karta Bhokta. The one who is behaving, he is like a Karta Bhokta, but borrowing the capacity of Chit. That guy is also subservient to the pure consciousness, which is Atma, which is oneself. That is what we have to understand. So, in as many words, you yourself said, Manishji, those four, the rest of them, air, fire, water, earth, those things are subservient to space. Similarly, when we understand this Panchakosha, from where normally we operate and we confuse ourselves to be, that's where the sense of being limited comes in. Being limited comes in. That is subservient to this Atma or consciousness or Brahman. So, same equation you have to put here. Now, in this analysis, when you give up the idea of being mind, being this consciousness being stuck in, the interpreter being stuck in mind, and buddhi, automatically he understands that, okay, first he claims this actually, I am also omnipotent and I am also omnipresent. Because when a jiva is traveling, first we said that when the Jadavastu is traveling, what is intact is space. Only the body is moving. Similarly, when this jiva, which is involved there, is, for example, as a body, Narada Muni, I was giving an example. That is Jadavastu, the entire body, plus consciousness. I am coming out of all this, Panchakosha actually. I am giving out Manas Buddhi as a part of the worldly things, because it is made of Pancha Bhuta only. The only thing is they are quite subtle. That's the reason we can't see and we can't, objectify it. It's quite subtle. So I am leaving that also, minus the subjectivity, the pure consciousness, and this body, what is there. When so-called it is moving, again, from a body perspective, space is kind of intact. However, consciousness did not move at all. Consciousness kahan move hota hai? Just eyes closed. If you are in train, for example, okay, you may still have the feeling because the vibrations will be happening, so you will infer that, okay, you are traveling. Eyes closed, you will not even realize travel if air is not there or vibration is not there. Just go into, vibrationless kind of vehicle, sit there, and you are ported to a different place. You won't even understand that you are moved actually, because you are just that consciousness. If you relate to that, you will not even sense movement. So this is how it works. So consciousness is the real thing which is intact, even compared to space. Because how in that deep analysis of where I am taking that 1 grain of rice, that space, for example. So I am saying that, okay, I can objectify space. So space is not Nitya Vastu, it is not Brahman. Gaya Gam se. No, bacha kya hai? It's only me. It's only me who's left. Because the one which I have objectified, I am saying it is not. And before this, I was saying that is the superhero. It is omnipresent as well as omnipotent. It was a superhero in the first analysis. Now I am saying, oh, anything that I know is not definitely me, and it is definitely not Brahman. It is not a Nitya Vastu. That's why it is saying, Brahman you do not know. Simple. So it is small. Now only we had two things. My Chit, me as Chit, and me occupying space. But now when I understand space is not there, is Anitya, there is no other thing, that is what is Advaita. Second thing does not exist. Only I am existing. If I am the only one existing, I am the one who's available as awareness. The only thing which can objectify or sense anything for that matter finally. That is why this is said, this is the senses of all senses. This is the basic ingredient from where everything that can sense happens. This is the basic tattva. So when you just analyze space and yourself, you obtain, space goes off. Definitely we have to give the answer to Veda, saying that, hey Maya, I understood it. Definitely I am not Jada. I am not that space. I am that sensible being. I am that being. Forget anything else. I am just that being and I exist. Thanks for the knowledge. Carry on. This is what you will say. So this is the status of Brahman, that consciousness. Thanks, Manishji, for asking this question. I think it enabled me to give an elaborate answer.
I have so like another thing. So if we see as us, we are still unable to understand space. And space is something which is also a part of so Brahman is even space plus something is Brahman. It is something beyond.
No. In terms of properties, for us to understand space plus something is Brahman.
So
from space we can't create Brahman. So space plus something is not Brahman in that sense.
From Brahman also, from the perspective of Brahman, space is also limiting.
Of course.
Can I say that?
Of course. I can take you through this. You can reserve your second part of the question. I can answer right away in this. See, in this analysis, what I said, where you are, space is not. In your understanding of your awareness as Chit, space is not. Now, for space to be born, for space to be given credence in terms of a real, kind of understanding the reality that yes, space exists and gross objects exist. First, I have to give up my understanding of being omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. Only then space can be born. Otherwise, what did I say? At that place where I am, when I am imagining or when I am kind of examining, I don't see space, because where I am, space cannot be. It's a different thing that once I forget myself, then space takes its kind of role, and that's where kind of the de facto de jure control comes in, and then the world comes straight away. Space is born, world is there. Khatam baat. That one change alone has to happen where I understand, oh, this world is entirely based off space, and space itself is jada. Who is saying this? That Chaitanya Vastu. Because saying that I can see space, so space is jada. Simple. So once I can see space, what do I see of space? I see that is an absolute zero. It's an absolute zero. And from that absolute zero, can things come? Yes. How? Minus A plus A, it can come. And minus B plus B, it can come. So when I'm sitting on B, I do not account for minus A plus A and minus B. And I keep wondering as to how far minus A is minus B. This is actually, because I am sitting in positive B. Because I have taken one world to be myself, and there is a distance between me and others. So that in that understanding, the whole astronomy works, the whole world of science works, satellites work, everything works. For example, if we have a complete house, normally, you will not launch a satellite from one room to another room. Actually, we will not do that. If everything is yours, why will you launch a satellite from one place to another? If you are that, we don't do that. So that understanding of one to be the totality consumes everything that is possible as a concept. Everything is consumed. When everything is consumed in oneness, then there is nothing remains to be asked actually. This is what happens. Please proceed with the second part, Manishji.
No, I was just saying that today's our thought process, or maybe our understanding, is so limiting even with space. So understanding Brahman is going beyond that understanding.
Exactly. The point here is very clear. At one point in time, we have to understand that if we have to see Brahman as an object of mind, that is impossible. This is what is being said in these verses. Do not consider Brahman to be an object of five senses, which means manasa manaso also no. So even of the mind, it is not an object of mind at all. Then how do we know? All that we need to know is that mind is mithya. This entire, I should say understanding, it's a wrong understanding. This entire understanding of oneself to be this body and this panchakosha is the problem. Drop that. Understand that this mind has the capability to bridge this anitya world and the nitya world. It has definitely the capability. That's where the beauty is. In the panchakosha, manomaya, vinyanamaya, anandamaya is an amazing thing. Of course, pranamaya. Pranamaya is something at least we can understand a little bit more through yoga and other stuff. We can understand this. Manomaya, yes, through psychology. Vinyanamaya, also through psychology, a lot. But it is so subtle that as we go to the subtler, it gives, it assumes that ownership as though, yes, I am everything. I am that kartha bhokta, I am that everything. That's where the problem comes actually, that everything is basically jada plus chetana. And it's amazing thing as well, that jada plus chetana can never be combined. That's where it's an amazing combination. Mahakavi Bharati, you might have heard about the name Subramanya Bharati, Mahakavi Subramanya Bharati. He was someone who used to be a freedom fighter, who used to be more like a socialist and all. He's written many songs, and he's also written songs on Vedanta concepts. So he writes in one of these lines, one of these songs he writes on Vedanta. He says that Ettanai Kodi Inbam Padaitai Ireva. So, O Lord, you have created crores and crores of wonders and pleasures. And then he says, when he goes to that antara, the first two lines, first antara, he says, Chittinai achittudan inaitai, serum aimboodathu viyanulagam amaithai. So it comes, Chittinai achittudan inaitai angu, serum aimboodathu viyanulagam amaithai. That line is amazing actually. He's saying that you combine Chit with Achit. You combine Atma with Anatma. Doing this, you created an amazing world. So the point is, it's very difficult to mix Chit with Achit. Very, very difficult. Impossible. And he's saying that, boss, then how can you do this? I mean, you've done this. Chittinai achittudan inaittai. Inaittai means, you kind of, mixed it. So it's an amazing thing. Atma and Anatma. Atma is that in which everything exists. Then Anatma, how does it come about? That's the beauty. That's where you use the word Maya. And amazingly, Maya is Yama. That which is not is Maya. That which is. In that which is not is there. And that which is not plus that which is, when combined, is world. Chittinai achittudan inaittai serum aimbhudattu vienulagam amaittai. I mean, by mixing these 5 bhutas into that, created an amazing world. That's what he's saying. One more line which is from one great person called Shivavakyar was the name actually. He also used to write a lot, in terms of thought-provoking things, and then, he used to break patterns and break wrong thinkings in a different way actually. So, he had written many lines. One of the lines I can recite. இல்லை 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 என்று எம்புகின்ற வேளை நாள் இல்லை என்று நின்றதொன்ற இல்லை என்றலாகுமோ இல்லை அல்ல ஒன்றுமல்ல இரண்டும் ஒன்றி நின்றதை எல்லை கண்டு கொண்ட பேர் இனி பிறப்பதில்லையே. This amazing line actually. The last 2 lines I'll say. இல்லை அல்ல. இல்லை அல்ல means actually the one exists. That is Atma. Ondrumalla is that which is Anatma, because it finally doesn't exist. Illai alla, but the way they've coined is amazing actually. 2 negatives they have put actually. Illai alla, ondrumalla. Irandum ondri nindradai. So this Atma and Anatma, the secret of the mix of these two, the one who understands, he crosses the samsara and the cycle of birth and death. இல்லை அல்ல ஒன்றுமல்ல இரண்டும் ஒன்றி நின்றதை எல்லை கண்டு கொண்ட பேரினி பிறப்பதில்லையே. The one who understands this is not born again. That's what he writes actually. So this Atma and Anatma sambandha, that's amazing actually. It cannot be mixed, but it is seemingly mixed. This is where the problem is. So when we analyze, we have to understand, when we say space, we always think about space yonder. Always. Because that's how science also keeps guiding us. Because the person who's there, he's sitting there, he wants to see something at the distance. He's not seeing something where he is. He's not seeing that actually. That's why Vedanta has to bring that person actually back. Boss, jahan beta udhar bhi to space hai. Wo wala space pehle dekh lo na yaar. Why are you bothering me? You want to leave a satellite to go there and see? Bhai, tumhara aankh hai. In fact, aankh ko band karo, zyada dikhega. What scientists do? Whatever we can't see from here, we will make another larger eye to see. What is that larger eye? Either you make a lens, or whatever. Either you make a microscope to see, to enlarge something to see, or you make a telescope to bring near something, to be seen. So basically, what are we doing? We are only enhancing our capability of indriyas through some more support. That's all we are doing. But finally, we want to understand through perception. As much as possible, we want to perceive everything. Not even inference. Inference is where we can't perceive. Then we say, इधर से एक light गया होगा तो पक्का एक photon तो गया होगा इधर से उधर. We have to infer. There also you want to really see actually, Given a choice, if someone can show how atoms work, people would love. Visualization is something. That's perception. But if it is inference without any board, keep thinking 10 to the power of whatever and minus and all. It's a helpless situation, but then you still have to learn. So that's what engineering is all about actually. So given a choice, we always resort to perception. That is because mind behaves that way. Mind wants everything that is perceivably available. That is what it wants. When it is not, then it has to settle down to inference. Otherwise, it will want to only perceive. See, I want lassi to drink. I don't want a story about lassi as to how good lassi is all about. But if I don't have access to food at all, it's okay. At least I listen a story about lassi. ठीक है भाई, ऐसा लग रहा है कि दिया पिया कुछ करके. This is where we are actually. So all that I'm saying is, we see everything through the sense of our mind, which is limited, and then try to understand space, this, that, everything. But the moment you just go and analyze where you are and take that space for analysis, space becomes this, idam. That's why it says, Nedam yadidam upasate. You have seen these lines actually. Nedam yadidam upasate. Yes chakshusha pashyati, yena chakshumshi pashyati. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. Na idam yadidam upasate. Not this which people take up for upasana. So anything that is this is not me, aham, idam. Anything that is idam is not aham. So anything that is idam, throw it out. So when I am just chit and space, space is idam, throw out space, space gone, entire world gone, I am there, I will always be there, khatam baat. Aikya done. That's it. This is what Atmajnana is all about. Just know yourself to be the chit, and the chit is everything that is possible here is the chit. This is how Atmajnana works. But yes, it's a trick actually that you should keep on internalizing. I can also express only as many words as much I can express. I can relate to people the way from their profession, from the question what it comes through. I can attempt. That's what Vedanta is also attempting. We are only bridging the last mile a little bit more. That's it. Right? Great. Superb. So we'll chant the concluding mantra. Purnamada. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnahat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari.
Hari Om, everybody.
Hari.
Hari Om.